Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Welcome to the Stadium Pulse, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tegan Randolph, your host. Let's get this quick little adjustment. Sorry, you get a good little look of my nail. We're in a new studio. We're in a new spot. We're in a new state. If you guys did not know, I have just pulled off a cross-state move, something that I didn't think I was capable of. To be honest, with how difficult this move has been, I was not fully expecting. There you go, get a little adjustment there. I unfortunately have not been able to do a video in a live stream with you guys in week. We have so much to talk about, so many things to discuss in terms of college football, the best sport on the face of this planet. And let me give you a little table of contents. There's no better way. Instead of me sitting here giving you excuses, y'all don't want to hear excuses. Y'all don't want to hear why there hasn't been a show for a week. You just want to know, okay, it was moving. Let's move forward. So we got to talk about the transfer portal. We got 5 quarterbacks we'll discuss throughout today's show. Talk about what are their best fits. Is there reason to get excited if this quarterback goes to your program? All the good fixins with that. We'll talk about the first round of the college football playoff, more specifically, the top 2 teams top 2 matchups that are going to be going head to head over the next coming days. And then we'll do a full breakdown of the college football playoff and give you my final predictions as we turn the page, as we turn the corner. The college football season in 2025 is going to be coming to a close over the next month and a half. But you know what? That doesn't mean this stops. That doesn't mean I don't get in front of a camera and stop talking ball with you guys. It is college football, 365 days. So stick around. If you want more college football, guess what there is? A little red button called a subscribe button. All it does, free of charge, give you more college football content. Seems like a no-brainer to me. Former 5-star quarterback DJ Lagway out of the University of Florida has opted into the transfer portal. This was the first major domino to happen from the portal. And we got to talk about what is the best fit for a guy like DJ Lagway, because I understand many Florida fans, as we've seen across the country with many other quarterbacks, that they don't have to pretend that they like this guy anymore. They don't have to cape for their quarterback, even though when we talk about DJ Lagway, it has been a conversation of 2 main ingredients. Number 1, potential. What is DJ Lagway potentially going to look like? A 5-star quarterback like I talked about, and he looked the part early into his career, having an incredible record, showing glimpses of a quarterback that could be the special guy for Florida football to enter into the 2020s as a perennial playoff team with Billy Napier. Obviously, that did not become the case. They fired Billy Napier, and this seemed like it was going to be a breakup due to happen, but it's important to talk about this key area. We have to talk about the fact that DJ Lagway wanted to stay at Florida. Well, if he wanted to stay at Florida, folks, why didn't he just stay at Florida? Well, initial meetings with John Summerall and the new offensive coordinator from Georgia Tech. And if you know the background with the Georgia Tech offense, obviously he is going to adapt it, as they more than likely are going to bring in the backup from Georgia Tech. But it is an offense that relies a lot of the physicality of the quarterback run, which when we talk about the second ingredient, and you may ask, what is that, Tegan? We're talking about DJ Lagway's health. Because number 1, when we talk about the ingredient of the potential, right in line is the health and the availability of a guy like DJ Lagway, who needs to develop. And I think when we talk about Billy Napier's offense, as we close the chapter on Lagway at Florida, Billy Napier put a lot, and I mean a lot of responsibility, a lot of weight onto Lagway's shoulder from a schematic perspective. I mean, go look at any Brooks Austin film breakdown of what it was like to be a quarterback for the Florida Gators. It was a ton of responsibility. And then compare it to Marcel Reed for Texas A&M and Colin Klein. We're talking about quick hitter after quick hitter, getting the ball out of their hands, not having them sit back and really dissect from left to right of an entire offense, going through progressions, which is great. It's great to have that when we're talking about an NFL prospect, but when we're talking about a sink or swim situation for a young quarterback, it provides a lot of what we saw this year where the cracks really started to form for a guy like Lagway. It sounded like in those initial meetings, as we talked about, God, geez, I really need some chapstick. It sounded like from the original meetings when we talk about Lagway and the new regime with John Summerall at Florida, he had an assumption that he was going to be the guy. I mean, he is a Gatorade Player of the Year, one of the best quarterback prospects in recent memory. He has all the fixins that you could look for in a franchise guy. And he made the assumption that he had earned the right to be the starting quarterback. They didn't see that eye to eye. It sounded like there may have been a combine of some sorts between the two, and it was a mutually agreed upon plan to separate. And I think when we talk about Lagway's best fits, because we could talk about the past and what went wrong, I always talk about Billy Napier and his lack of flexibility in terms of play calling and adapting to where his circumstances are, potentially getting other thoughts into the room, all these different things. We could talk about that all day. And honestly, that's what the offseason is for. We got to talk about the future. What is Lagway's future going to look like as a collegiate player? Now, there's a couple names that come to mind. The top two that I want to mention. Now, this is not based on anything that I know that you guys don't. If you follow Pete Nakos, if you follow Pete Thamel, you should know all this information. If you have not locked into those news sources, I don't know what to tell you. They're the shams. They're the Woj bombs of college football. Sounds like Clemson and Baylor are two very intriguing options for a guy like DJ Lagway. This is because number one, when we talk about Baylor, his dad played at Baylor. He's got a profile picture of him in a Baylor uniform. Lagway has visited Baylor with the same regime that is currently there. There's a lot of ties there. It would be a step down in the competition level, but also the pressure takes a step back from being the starting quarterback at Florida to now the starting quarterback at Baylor. You can go build your own legacy there following your dad and all these different things. He's a big family guy. I mean, we've heard about this all the time. You know, Lagway is a very traditionalist quarterback in terms of how he is as a person, and I think he'd be a great fit at Baylor because you have to be a unique fit in terms of persona and how you go about your business at Baylor. The next option, very similar in terms of you have to be a very specific makeup of a character, is going to be Clemson. Now, you may be surprised I'm even talking about transfer players in Clemson. It sounds like Dabo Swinney is going to have to adjust his process to best acclimate for all the changes that are about to happen with Clemson football. I mean, we're talking about no Cade Klubnik, a couple wide receivers gone, a bunch of pieces on the defense gone. They are going to have to backfill some way, somehow, in a proven talent, though it's not proven in the sense of collegiate, dominance like a Lagway was, or what we saw with Cam Ward or Carson Beck. But with Lagway, at the end of the day, we're looking at a guy with a ton of potential, and he is at a better start than, say, Clemson, who's going to be moving off of Klubnik and have to go with a high school recruit. I think that they could potentially look into this guy. I know a lot of people have thrown LSU out there. I have a good suspicion that Lane Kiffin may want more of a finished product at the quarterback position. Guys like Sam Leavitt, I think, fit his persona and his personality. I think a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, if he gets another year of eligibility, to hop into the portal and go join him in Baton Rouge. I think there's a couple more options that best fit him. I think these are the top two schools, though, when we talk about Lagway. But enough of that. Speaking of Sam Leavitt seems to be going to Arizona State. Get a little water break. Starting quarterback Sam Leavitt out of Arizona State. He as well is going to go into the portal. This has been reported for months at this point. This is a well-known secret at this point when we talk about Sam Leavitt. A young quarterback, a guy that gets a lot of comparisons to like Bo Nix, an athletic player, not really a top-tier athlete in terms of arm talent and arm angles, can make every throw across the field because he'd be compared to Patrick Mahomes at this point. But a guy like Bo Nix, that I think if he goes into a situation where he got a ton of support on the outside when he went to Oregon, maybe refined his game a little bit more. A lot of people have aligned him with LSU, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Levitt, very confident. We're talking about personalities trying to match together when we talked about DJ Lagway and what is the program that he is going to be best aligned with. I think when we talk about programs, LSU and Levitt, when we talk about Lane Kiffin and Levitt, it's a match made in heaven. He has the, what's the best way to say it, moxie that we saw with Jackson Dart. He's got the moxie that we saw with Matt Corral. That's the type of quarterback that I think has to fit into a Kiffin system, a guy that really is going to let it rip and has the confidence that he can make every play across the football field. And it makes a ton of sense. I mean, Kenny Dillingham has handled this in an incredible fashion. We will talk about Kenny Dillingham here shortly when we talk about the Michigan job. But it sounds like Levitt, it's going to go to a best situation where he gets more NIL funding. He's going to go into a situation where he can develop his game. A lot of NFL scouts like his play style, what he could potentially be at the next level, and maybe elevating his level of competition. We will really get to see how good of a player he is. I wrote down only LSU because I think it makes the most sense for him. I think there's plenty of different teams that can go for him. And Oregon and Miami, these teams that have wrote off going for high school recruits and saying, we're going to get the proven guys and we're going to elevate their situations. We're going to also elevate their play style when they come to us. So Sam Levitt to LSU. Man, I'll tell you what, in Tennessee, this is not easy. I need chapstick like 24/7. When I was in Texas, it was so much like less dry in terms of having to deal with chapstick. This is brutal. Quarterback out of Cincinnati, Brendan Sorsby, starting quarterback at that. We're talking about a guy that is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire country hopping into the portal. This sounds like it was an NIL challenge. This sounded like something that when you go watch the head coach talk about this decision, they just didn't have the resources. They didn't have the funds to keep a guy of this caliber who is going to get some NFL draft buzz. Very similar to like Cam Ward, a guy like Carson Beck as well. Going to test the waters in terms of where do I land into the NFL draft? And honestly, it makes a lot of sense for him to do that because when we look at this 2026 draft, it is getting thinner and thinner by the day. Arch Manning recently announced that he's going to be returning to school. And you look at Fernando Mendoza, potentially Dante Moore is going to go back to school. It starts to open up a world where we look at 2027 that has a ton of talented players that are going to be hopping into the NFL draft. Maybe you look at yourself as a guy as Sorsby that could find yourself maybe in the back end of the first round. We're talking about a guy that has incredible touch, great mobility, a good enough arm. There's a lot of pieces here that I could see a ton of NFL draft scouts falling in love with. But as well, we're talking about a guy that could probably find the same amount of money where he realistically is going to get drafted to go play another year of school. And if he plays at a high level at a larger program, he himself has the tools and makeup. It's not a guy that I would say is like a Kenny Pickett of the world that could easily drop into like a third round pick if he was in a different draft class, which we all understand that would be the case. I think Sorsby has the tool set that could be a guy that even in a loaded quarterback draft class could find himself in the top 5, which could still get him in potentially the back end of the first round. I think a guy like him has been linked to Texas Tech for a very long time, which is going to be a wide air raid type of offense that is going to be very quick. It's not the best fit, but I do think he is a guy that if put into a right offense with Leftwich that is going to adapt to his skill set, put a little bit more quarterback run, he's going to be a lot more different than Baron Morton. I think he would be a fantastic fit there, and they are going to afford him. Now, if you're Cincinnati, it's a little painful, honestly, where you're looking at a guy that not only is leaving you, but he is leaving you for a conference opponent that just has more resources. We all understand this, that Texas Tech has a sizable gap in terms of their resource funding to be able to go get these guys. And they seem like ones that more than likely are going to double down. They got the success, regardless of what happens in the first round of the playoff. Texas Tech is going to double, triple, quadruple, whatever Cody Campbell is going to be able to write off in a check. They are going to double down in resources because they got a taste of success and they want this to happen for the next 10, 15, 20 plus years of Red Raider football. Now, I've not mentioned Dylan Raiola. Maybe because he hasn't had to tear his ACL yet. That was a banger of a tweet. I call a spade a spade. Using that video of the guy from The Walking Dead saying, no, 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 no. Finding out Dylan Raiola's got to tear his own ACL because of Mahomes. Mahomes get well. I need another water break. I apologize. Chris. It's going to be all one long video or a bunch of short clips, but I got a break. I got to get some water in. We got 5 quarterbacks to talk about. We got a ton of people here as well. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Stick around if you like college football content. Simple sugar. Let me know where you guys want to see these quarterbacks go. The Mahomes clone, Dylan Raiola, has been linked to go to the portal, and this has been talked about for a couple months at this point. His father was let go by the University of Nebraska. This has been something that has been written on the wall for quite some time. Now, unfortunately for Raiola, I think this is going to be I wouldn't say unfortunately, this is a great opportunity for a very talented kid to go into a situation and excel in a better spot. I mean, when we look at Nebraska, yeah, you have Emmett Johnson. You had guys that you knew that came from the portal. I think of Key. I think of a bunch of different wide receivers that they kept trying, but it never really felt like an offense at best fit what his skill set is. And we're talking about a guy that can hit all the different arm angles. He's a solid enough athlete to scramble on the outside. The arm is really good regardless of the angle. Like I mentioned, I think a guy like this is perfect for Miami. I think there is a case that he probably wanted a little bit more NIL money. This sounded like a breakup that was imminent for Nebraska. It never really felt like the offensive identity. They were able to figure it out. And I am a little worried when we talk about something that was pointed out on Twitter. I believe this is his 6th school in like 8 years. Like this is a guy that does not stick around. I only mention that because, NFL draft scouts, this is something that they will account when talking about the complete player. And when you go into the portal, you have to have those conversations of what is this player trying to accomplish to get to the next level, especially these high profile guys with a ton of potential. And very similar to Lagway, this is a guy that we've talked a lot of potential. He's shown a lot more, in my opinion, than DJ in terms of production and what this quarterback can be. He'd be coming off of a major injury, but this seems like a perfect case for maybe in Oregon, maybe in Miami, but he has been linked to Louisville and Jeff Brom. If they're able to get a guy like Dylan Raiola, sign me the hell up. A guy like Jeff Brom to get a quarterback of this talent would be incredible because what Jeff Brom does, you know what he does? He wins. He wins football games. He may not look pretty in the presser. He may not give you the most political answers in the world, but you know what he does? He wins football games. And giving him a quarterback of this talent, elevating from Miller Moss to Dylan Raiola, I would love to see it. I think it would be an incredible game or an incredible season in 2026 because you know what they also do? They like to get good wide receivers in the portal, which is going to be something that Raiola desperately needs. I think spreading the offense out, we've seen Raiola in a Nebraska offense that does not create explosives through the air. I want to see him in a high-flying offense and really see what this talent looks like when you let go of the training wheels because I think he could do phenomenal work. And the last guy we'll talk about, because I know the least about in terms of where he could go, Aiden Childs, Michigan State quarterback. Not really one that a lot of people are going to be talking about. I've been a big fan of Aiden Childs, even though he has disappointed me over the past couple of years. We're talking about a quarterback that, with Jonathan Smith and Michigan State, just never was able to really put the puzzle pieces together. But when the puzzle piece or the puzzle overall could potentially be put together, you get an incredibly talented quarterback. And I think he is a guy that, in a perfect world, he could go to a USC and sit. I understand they have Hassan Longstreet. They just got Jaden Mayalva returning, which is huge news for them. I understand a lot of people have been giving them a ton of flack for doing these re-signing players. It's a world of college football that we're in at this point. But a guy like Childs needs to take a Dante Moore route. A very talented quarterback, has the scrambling ability, has all the athletic traits that you look for in a quarterback. But I think he needs to get rid of some bad traits. I mean, truly, when we look at Michigan State, he had to play hero ball many of times, and he got some really bad habits that I think he's got to work out. I think Dante Moore being dropped into that UCLA situation, having to be the guy, probably did very similar things in terms of bad habits. And then he goes and sits and waits at Oregon for his opportunity and earns the right to start. Now, for Aiden Childs, it is a risky play. You're going to take your name off the list. No one's going to be talking about you, but you're going to be waiting in the wings in a system with Lincoln Riley where he's been able to develop guys. And if you earn that opportunity, you go win that job. As a competitor, I think this would be the best thing for his development. It wouldn't shock me if he goes into the group of 5 ranks, but I would love to see it because as someone that has been a huge fan of Aiden Childs, and I think the talent is very much there. I don't want to see that be withered away at a G5 school and potentially all these bad habits get doubled and tripled down. I would love for him to go get an opportunity and sit and potentially go back to the Power 4. All right, we talked about all these transfer quarterbacks, and I will say this: as the portal continues to open up, we finally got a new setup. We are in the spot that I was destined to be. All of this is going to get, like, we're going to get the whiteboard back, more pennants right here. All the fixins are going to be there. So all I ask in this entire show, we got some people in here. Appreciate you checking out the channel. If you've never seen this mustache, this says Muffaletta because I got it at a deli shop. We talk college football around here. That's all we do. This is powered by Kretschmann Media, man. That's all we do around here is talk some ball. And there's a big red button that says subscribe, gets you more ball. Simple sugar. We got to talk about the college football playoff. We're 21 minutes in. We're going to go a little bit longer for you guys. 2 teams who have never made the college football playoff playing for their first win in their program's history. You have the Miami Hurricanes traveling into College Station, Texas, Kyle Field. Not at night, unfortunately. It will be a noon kickoff. Texas A&M versus Miami is going to be the best game of this entire first round. Now, is it going to be the prettiest game? I don't think any of these games are going to look pretty, whether it's a blowout or because it's a close, low-scoring game, because of all the questions I'm going to say when breaking down this. The number one thing that I say number one thing I ask when talking about this game, which Marcel Reed are we going to get against Miami? There's been 2 sides of the coin with this quarterback. Now, you get moments of it in some of these games. I think a great example is early on against Mississippi State for Texas A&M. Marcel Reed was not looking comfortable, wasn't looking like himself. And you put in a couple plays, and all it took was one drive, and then bam, you get the Heisman level quarterback that people were pushing for the majority of this season. Very similar. We talked about the South Carolina game. Marcel Reed looks like one of the worst quarterbacks you've ever seen. Second half, bam. Just a couple of momentum plays, and then all of a sudden we're looking at a quarterback that could have been in New York for the Heisman. All these little things. You see these 2-sided, characteristics when we're talking about Marcel Reed. What can you do to get him comfortable? Because I'm not expecting him to just play a complete game from quarter 1 to quarter 4, because just because I haven't seen it from A&M doesn't mean I'm going to see it. You're not guaranteed to see a complete game. So what are you going to do when you do get punched in the mouth, when you do have a 5-yard negative play right here and you're in a 3rd and 15? It is your 3rd straight drive where you haven't been able to put up any kind of points. What are you going to do, Colin Klein, to get your quarterback to feel comfortable? And I think that goes to my next question is, which quarterback is going to be most comfortable? Carson Beck, we've seen it time and time again. When you get to his face or when you get pressure there, he plays his worst football. With Marcel Reed, same thing can be said. When you are able to make him think and really diagnose what is being put in front of him. I think of Texas as a great example where he's batting the football, chopping his feet. That's the worst version of Marcel Reed we will see all year. If I know which quarterback's the most comfortable in this spot, I know who wins the game pretty comfortably. I think A&M does have one key factor that is going to help their quarterback, and it's going to be Le'Veon Moss, who has not been slated to return. I don't know any information, but I think it's the best kept secret in all of college football is the impact of a free 3.5 yards every single time type of runner in Le'Veon Moss. even though he may end up just getting 10 to 12 carries in this game, those 10 to 12 carries could be the difference to what I was originally talking about, where we're looking at a team that may be stalling out, having a couple 3-and-outs. He is the heartbeat of the offense to correct the course, and he could easily be a dynamic of enough player that can get you to 125 yards rushing against one of the best rushing defenses in the entire country. If you go watch the game tape against Texas, Reuben Owens time and time again kept falling and missing yards, and you could make a litany of plays where there was missing yardage that could turn that from a 2nd and 6 to a 2nd and 3, or a 3rd and 7 to a 3rd and 2, all these different things. I think another question is, how is Miami going to get Malachi Toney the ball? A&M has done a fantastic job in man coverage and being able to stop number one wide receivers. They will run, no matter if it is Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, Texas A&M is going to run man coverage. They are confident in Des Ricks. They are confident in Will Lee and all these corners to go man up against the best of the best. So if you're Shannon Dawson, what are you going to do to be able to put your quarterback into the best position to get the ball out quick and get to your playmakers' hands? We're talking about Malachi Toney, who could run out on a jet sweep and throw the football. We're talking about Malachi Toney that could take a jet sweep and run it for 60 yards to the house. He is their most versatile player. And then on the inverse, when we're talking about Casey Concepcion, how are you, Colin Klein, going to get your guys the football quick? I think that's a huge thing when we look at this Texas A&M offense. When they are on rhythm, they are on schedule. That is their best version. That is the best A&M offense that you will see in the past 10 years. But there's a lot of reasons why this is a big concern, is because they haven't been on schedule. They haven't been on time. They've been out of sorts across the past couple of weeks. So what are you going to do to change that? I do think them getting healthy, them losing that Texas game and really stewing with it. And guess what they get to do? They get to go home. They get to play in Kyle Field. This will be a 50,000 human difference from the loudest game or the largest environment that Miami had to play in all season to this one. They are walking into College Station, Texas for their first college football playoff game. This is going to be rowdy. I don't care if it is going to be at 6 a.m., 12 p.m., any day of the week, any hour. That stadium is going to be filled, and it is going to be a pain to work with. Now, we could see penalties be a huge issue here. When we talk about a special teams edge, I frankly don't know too much about Miami's. I know a lot about A&M's, and A&M's special teams has been special. So when we look at a close game like that, these little differences, where's your field position? You have some of the best returners in the entire country. Looking at KC, that could be a difference. And then when I look at this overall game, to get to an actual prediction, it's going to be one or two moments on both sides of the ball. Who is going to get that 35-yard play across the middle? Is it a Mario Craver, who we've been asking for to bounce back for the second half of the season? He has been injured. Or maybe it's a Le'Veon Moss 15-yard gain when you absolutely need it. Or maybe it's a Malachi Toney screen on the other side that can explode for 25-plus yards, put you in a field goal position. All these different things accounted for. So then I ask myself the question. I say, pardon me if you hear my dog. I then ask myself the question. I say, I'm losing my train of thought. I then ask the question, what is the quarterback edge on both sides of the ball? Which one do I feel more confident in? Do I feel more confident that Marcel Reed at home is going to be able to stay on rhythm on time? Because I've seen A&M play their best football at home. Or do I trust the veteran quarterback that has seen a ton of football, that has played in the SEC, has played in these environments before, to bounce back? The problem is it's Carson Beck. And I've seen what Carson Beck looks like under pressure. I've seen what Carson Beck is in terms of turning over the football. One thing important to note when we talk about Miami, it's not like A&M I'm expecting to put up 30 points in this spot. And both of their losses has been multiple turnovers from Carson Beck, and it has been sub 25 points from both teams, Louisville and SMU respectively. A&M has the front sevens that match up with Louisville and SMU, but they have a better secondary, and their defense plays their best football at home. So with that in mind, I'm picking Texas A&M to win 24-20. I completely understand Ruben Bain could ruin this Saturday. I could completely understand all these different playmakers. This is a tough game to predict. If there's a confidence meter, I'm talking like a 4. Like there's no confidence when talking about this game. But there is a confidence that I think that A&M is going to be very much well equipped to win this game. And they can win in multiple different ways. If they need to make this an Auburn type of game, they need to make this an Arkansas type of game, a Notre Dame type of game. They've been able to beat teams in a multitude of different ways. And they are battle tested. I'm picking them to win. Simple sugar. All right. We got to get through. Let's see. Let's do the next matchup. Alabama is going to be traveling to Norman, Oklahoma to face off against the Sooners in the first round of the college football playoff. Both teams have made their respective college football playoffs in the past. This will be Oklahoma's first time in the 12-team playoff, and I believe the first time in the 2020s. And then Alabama, of course, has been in and out of the playoff many of times. This has been a matchup that Oklahoma's won back-to-back times. They won in 2024, and then they won in the regular season matchup in 2025 in Tuscaloosa. Now we're looking at a return back to Norman, Oklahoma, and this matchup happened just over a month ago. So what can we expect? Number one thing when talking about that or not the rematch, but the first matchup, if you were to just look at the box score, didn't know what the turnover margin was, didn't know what the final score was, you would more than likely believe that Alabama won this game in controlling fashion. Truthfully, they dominated in every other stat category, but the two main ones that put Oklahoma in the best position to win this game, number one, turnover margin. I believe they won 3-0. Then you throw in the fact that they had the best field position in the entire game. I mean, every single drive, it seemed like they were working on a short field, whereas Alabama, it was just in a clinic in terms of special teams. And I think that is a huge factor in this game. Pardon me. Especially when it's Alabama traveling on the road this time. And we know Alabama, it seems like they play some of their worst football on the road. Now, before you start typing and saying Georgia, I understand that you went on the road and won in Georgia, but more times than not, we've seen a different Alabama team on the road. Number one thing I wrote down is turnovers. Now, I can't predict turnovers. I know Ty Simpson has not played his best football. I know John Mateer has not played his best football. And the question is are these injuries? They've had some time to rest up. Is it injuries, or is it for the fact that maybe they're not as good as we originally thought they were? That's the number one question you have to ask yourself. Second question I ask, who is getting the better field position? Fair question. I mean, these are the same things that we saw make a huge difference when talking about the first matchup. Who's going to be starting at the 50 versus the 20? Hell, who's going to be starting on the 35 versus the 10? Who's going to have to chip away? Because the biggest thing with this Venables defense is if you start at the 10, you're not going to be able to create explosives. And also, you're giving them more opportunities for like an R. Mason Thomas, for a Bowens to make another play. You can't go 10, 12 plays and expect to consistently get off quality drives. It's just not going to happen. I'm picking Oklahoma to win 16-10. I think this is for one simple reason. I do not like the vibes of this Alabama special teams right now, this kicking unit. And when we're talking about a very close game between two programs, one with an elite defensive mind and a defense that is playing some of their best football, and sure, Oklahoma's offense, we could talk about it, man. They create a 45-plus yard play once every game, and then the rest of it is absolutely horseshit. And then we go look at the Alabama offense, and they have not played their best football as of late, and their defense has grown and gotten a little bit better. But at the end of the day, if Ty Simpson's missing footballs, he's missing footballs. And I completely understand. You want to believe Kalen DeBoer, big game coach. You want to talk about they just played their worst football of the entire season. They are due for a bounce back. And in this spot, they are being doubted and doubted and doubted. They're going to go on the road and potentially find a way to win. I also believe in Sooner Magic. I just think they're going to find a way to win. They continuously find ways to win. That's such a generic thing to say, and I hate to do it, but it's honestly the best way to describe Oklahoma football at this point. A team that every stat category goes to the other team, but they find a way to get the more points on the board at the end of the day. It doesn't make sense. And when we look at a close matchup like this, I don't think Alabama can afford to go 3 of 5 on field goals, whereas Oklahoma goes 5 of 5. I think that's the difference in a game like this. Who can you rely on to put the other team in a bad spot? Who can you rely on to consistently put points on the board? Who can you rely on to keep the game close enough for striking distance? And I'm trusting Oklahoma in this spot. All right, y'all. We just hit the 35-minute mark. We're going to talk about the G5 matchups tomorrow because I owe y'all some shows. I do. We're going to do the G5 matchups tomorrow. We're going to do full college football playoff predictions tomorrow. So you're going to know my full bracket. I'm going to have a graphic ready for you guys and everything. We'll talk some Heisman and we'll talk some more portal stuff. But like I said, this is the Stadium Pulse. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Tegan Randolph. I will see you guys next time. If I could find my ending soon. See y'all.